When trying to be a gentleman, you might be able to talk the talk, but can you truly walk the walk? Stand tall and composed. As a good rule of thumb, it's best to walk with a good posture without overcompensating or over-exaggerating your strides or stance. This means that you shouldn't slouch or make yourself overly small while walking, but don't overdo it with a puffed out chest or an aggressive stance that takes up more room than is reasonable. Having good posture without over-exaggerating your presence helps you to come across as confident without being obnoxious in the process. We'll modify a classic Brummalism here. If how you walk makes people stop and stare, you're not walking in a gentlemanly way. Take deliberate and measured steps. The best way to walk forward is with a purpose in mind, and this is best achieved by taking calm and deliberate strides towards where you're headed. If you don't know where you're heading, it might be a good idea to address that first. So, if you have a destination in mind, determine your walking directions before setting out. If you're walking for pleasure with no particular fixed destination, feel free to move in a more leisurely manner, but continue to take full, intentional strides. Try not to drag or rush your steps either in your stride, as this manner of stepping does not appear elegant and makes you appear uncoordinated. Plus, it'll save you from having to use edge dressing frequently on your dress shoes as an extra incentive. If you aren't sure where you're going or got lost, and it's causing you to slow down in the process, it's better to step aside if in a crowded area so you aren't blocking the flow of traffic. Usually the biggest faux pas that you can commit while walking is being inconsiderate of others while moving in a more populated area, inconveniencing everyone else in the process. So avoid stopping short or stopping abruptly, as you'll interrupt the flow of traffic. And don't make sudden or unexpected movements or turns that could cause you to suddenly step in front of someone or even bump into them. Being mindful also applies to when you're trying to be helpful or polite. If you want to give way to other pedestrians, do so in an efficient manner. When it's crowded, don't make a production of stepping aside and waving someone forward. When giving way to one person, you might end up in someone else's way. Don't stop moving completely in that type of scenario, and instead try to get a less hectic area if you need to let others pass. And especially don't go against the flow of traffic, leading to our next point. Be mindful of local conventions. Often the most common way to be ungentlemanly while walking is by disregarding etiquette guidelines in public walkways, causing you to be an annoyance to passerbys. This might mean blocking off the fast lane while on an escalator, making it so others can't pass you with luggage, or any other implicit rules that, while not stated, are generally followed by polite people while walking. These sorts of rules are far less applicable when taking a leisurely stroll in a quiet park or other areas with little to no foot traffic, but could be crucial in bigger metros and hubs for transportation. It's also worth noting that the correct rules can change based on where you are. For example, in the US, it's often the right side that's the slower lane, while in Japan, it's often the left side. If you are ever unsure of what you should be doing, you could just mirror what everyone else is doing around you. Also, be mindful of designated spaces. Walk on the sidewalks or pedestrian zones, and don't travel in zones intended for other vehicles like in bike lanes. Simply put, be mindful of your surroundings and look out for others. Speaking of which, do you think my outfit today would catch the attention of some passerbys? In today's outfit, I am wearing a navy suit with a Glen check pattern. I love this suit. It is very traditional in a simple sense. It's very classic. And with my shirt, I ended up doing a more banker look. So I did a contrast collar, contrast cuffs. With my tie, I decided to put on a paisley tie. It is also navy. It has some red around the paisleys. I feel like this just kind of brings the look together, also adds a little bit of color to the already navy that I have on the suit. With my shoes, I did a pair of dark brown Oxford cap-toe shoes. For my pocket square, I decided to wear this white pocket square. It does have a green edge to it. I feel like that just kind of complements the blue in the suit and all the rest of the blue that I have going on. Keep hands neutral. It is completely normal to have your arms lightly swing when at your sides while walking forward. And while some people might prefer more deliberate movements with their arms, the key is to avoid any extreme movements so it's not being done excessively or aggressively. It's also good to avoid making clenched fists or keeping your hands in your pant pockets the entire time while you're walking, as it could potentially come across as threatening. While in the military, it was a huge faux pas to have your hands in your pockets, and one of the biggest reasons was because if you had to trip and fall, you could still catch yourself with your arms. As opposed to having them in your pockets, you would just fall flat on your face. Keep your hands out your pockets. With the exception of being when you keep your hands in your overcoat pockets during the cold months for warmth, as this can be both a practical and nonchalantly stylish way to walk. Make an appropriate amount of eye contact. The amount of appropriate eye contact you give to others while walking is again situational, but these are some good general rules to follow. It's often considered rude to completely look past someone when walking by them or refusing to acknowledge them at all. Though again, these rules vary regionally. In New York City, for instance, busy pedestrians rarely make eye contact while walking with a destination in mind. If you're in a calm and more relaxed setting, it's normal to nod and smile to passerbys, even if you're not trying to start a conversation. Generally speaking, this convention is associated with rural regions, small towns or cities, and residential areas, but it can also occur in bigger and friendlier cities too. Although it will be far less acceptable in busier or heavily populated areas like airports or metros where people have somewhere to be. However, it's also very possible to make too much eye contact, and excessive staring can come across as hostile, so don't make it overly deliberate. Don't rush. Unless there's a serious cause to warrant it, gentlemen rarely run anywhere in a non-athletic setting. If you're running late, it's far more tactful to call ahead rather than run and make a scene. Only Tom Cruise looks cool running in a suit after all. Look for opportunities to help out. As you're walking, be cognizant of any chances to help others, as this will truly be one of the best chances to be gentlemanly and help your community at large. This can include small but meaningful gestures like holding open doors, picking up things that others have dropped, helping people come across the road, picking up litter near convenient trash cans, or any other good deed. For any assistance that requires getting close to someone, like taking an older person's arm to help them step down from a curb, or handing back a dropped parcel, be sure to announce yourself and offer to help so that you don't startle anyone. Since being helpful and considerate of others is truly what being a gentleman is all about. Walking with others. When walking with a group or partner, be mindful of their speed, since you want to walk in step with them. You are walking together, after all. If you have trouble keeping pace, don't be afraid to say so. And don't belittle others who need you to slow down for them. When you're in large groups, it's good to stay in close proximity to each other, but don't dominate the walkway in the process. Generally, you don't want to walk more than 2 abreast in most circumstances. It might be good to consider buddying up with someone else to chat with them as you make your way to the next venue you're all going to. But accept that you can't be involved in every conversation that's happening. And if there's an odd person or people in your group, after you chatted with someone, consider excusing yourself after a pleasant chat and walking with a literal odd man out so that everyone feels involved. Whenever you are walking, you should leave sufficient room between yourself and others, both to afford them personal space and to avoid stepping on their feet or backs of their shoes. Even if they are your friends, they won't take kindly to you trotting on their feet. Chivalric walking traditions. Let's now talk about some of the historic conventions that traditionally had precedence when a gentleman was walking with a lady. Historically, men were expected to walk on the outside of the sidewalk closest to the street. This was, potentially, intended so that the man's bulk would protect the lady from getting splashed with mud from the dirty gutter or street. This is fairly innocuous convention, and there's certainly nothing wrong with still practicing it, provided that you do so in a way that's natural and unobtrusive. Less viable today is the often lampooned gesture of placing a coat so that the lady can proceed safely and elegantly without muddying her shoes. Originally, this was an endeavor that was only attempted at small puddles, with a waterproof jacket laid exterior down so that later the jacket could easily be washed off and cleaned. In comedies and cartoons, however, the man was often humorously shown laying down on a coat or even his jacket, ruining it in the process. Obviously, you shouldn't unnecessarily stain your Keaton jacket in a showy gesture. And we rather suspect that most people would be a little weirded out by you laying down even a waterproof garment in a puddle. So maybe it is best that this particular gesture, however well intended, has fallen out of favor. Now, when you step out, you can be confident in knowing that you are putting your best foot forward as a gentleman. Have we missed anything? Let us know in the comments how you walk like a gentleman.